Hello, I want to welcome you to Legacy, a webcast, a podcast, whichever way you're listening by, where we talk about family life and building a legacy and leaving a legacy that brings glory and honor to Jesus Christ for future generations. And we have today Pastor Walker. You're back.
Thank you, Sammy.
And we're happy to have you back in town.
Good.
And my sweet wife, Tex, and
Good morning.
it's good to see you this morning again. So we're back. Shirley is doing Family Matters.
That is correct.
And we definitely do not want to disrupt the family, having a program on the family. So we're just glad. David, I know you and Shirley last week, Tex and I did it, and y'all were in Tennessee.
We were.
It sounds like I come from Tennessee, saying y'all were in Tennessee. Yeah. But you were in Tennessee, and a kind of interesting story about how you got there. Tell the folks about it before we get into talking about what we want to talk about today.
Well, it really was an interesting journey, and there was a young physician, a young Air Force physician, who was a part of the Alamo City family here in San Antonio. He and his family were a part of the church family a few years ago, and he was moved to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, but Clarksville, Tennessee, that area
it's
right
real
there.
Close to
It's that's where we were in a church in Tennessee, which was just off of the base there. Anyway, this young doctor has had two tours of duty in Iraq, and the second one, on the second tour, Tex, he was just told the story of being suddenly called up by his commander, and they were swept away to a base someplace in and around Baghdad, I suppose. And the short of that story, Sammy, is that he was one of a team of physicians who actually examined Saddam Hussein shortly after he was captured. But what he spoke of that was particularly intriguing was that he just sensed immediately that there was some kind of connection. He was standing about 3 or 4 feet away from Saddam Hussein after the examination had been completed, and there was an entourage and so forth. But there was just a connection between Saddam Hussein and him.
Huh.
He was the only person that Saddam shook hands with on the way out, put his hand over his heart. And all the way through that encounter, invisibly, this young doctor was praying. God just gave him a heart of compassion for this brutal murder, the same category of a Hitler or a Stalin. And he went in with just a hard heart. But as soon as he saw the man, God just melted his heart with compassion.
You know, David, it's amazing. I mean, just one common, ordinary guy all of a sudden is thrust into history,
right,
and has this incredible opportunity as a Christian, as a believer, and we never know when that's going to happen. I'm sure he never expected that he would be examining Saddam Hussein, and and God gives us opportunities and points of responsibility to pray as he did. Yeah. Incredible. I mean, we just don't know. God orders the steps of a righteous man, the Scripture says.
Right. That's exactly right.
And we want to talk about praying with our families, praying for our families. And I am your worst church member. In case those of you who missed our first webcast that we did, I am a member of Alamo City Christian Fellowship. You are my pastor, and I'm probably the worst member that you have besides my sweet wife.
No, not at all. Not at all. We are just so great. We feel like that we get to be a home base out from which you all minister to the world. So when we get to see you, we count it a real privilege and joy. I mean that.
Well, we're gone so much, and we miss so much, but I heard that you had a great Mother's Day message, and you were sharing with me. We were talking earlier about the scripture that you share with us, that scripture, and a little bit about that. What was on your heart?
Well, I don't know that it was a great message. This is a great passage of scripture.
Great messages come from great passages of scripture.
You just can't improve upon the word. But the focus was upon Samuel, the child, but primarily his mother, Hannah, who gave birth to him, and she had been, the story is familiar to lots of believers and students of the Word, she was barren. She was one of 2 wives of Elkanah, and the other wife had plenty of kids, but she had no children. And so she on one occasion made it a specific point it was hard for her to go to church, as we would say, because she would always be ridiculed because everybody else had kids and she didn't have a child. But she poured her heart out to the Lord, and this is 1 Samuel 1, verse 11. Then she made a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your maidservant and remember me, and not forget your maidservant, but will give your maidservant a male child, and then this line, Sammy, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life. Now, you first read that, and you think, that's a sweet thing for a mother to pray. She wants this baby to be given to the Lord, and that the Lord would take care of him all the days of his life. But Hannah, I am convinced, had something far more in mind than that. Just that he would be dedicated, and then how the choices he made, that's just kind of a random deal. 3 times in the first chapter, she repeats that all the days of his life he will belong to you, O God. The last verse in the chapter says, therefore, I also have lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he shall be lent to the Lord. It's as if she believed God had given her some measure of authority over the rest of that child's life. That the Lord had given him to her as the mother. And now she is the mother, and it's the word lent. I'm lending my child to you.
Wow.
I see Tex smiling. Because, and around the congregation Sunday morning, there were some of our folks just kind of shaking their heads. Boy, that's the truth. My mom never, ever told me I was not given to the Lord. I mean, or that it depended upon me to agree with her that it's okay, Mom, I'll let you give me to the Lord. I mean, I had them stand up. How many of you ran from God, tried to go even farther away from God just to prove that her prayers weren't, you weren't going to be what your family would have wanted you to be, but then God brought you back. And I mean, looked like there were hundreds that stood up on Sunday morning saying, "That's me." So I don't know how you do this, but there's authority there, Ted, somehow.
And a very interesting thing too is the repercussions that this had, not just on Samuel, but on the generations to come.
That's right.
I'm sitting here. My name is Samuel.
Yeah.
And the reason my name is Samuel is it's taken from the Scripture. Of course, my grandfather's name was Samuel, but that was taken from the Scripture. And just the lingering, what I call aroma of a praying person.
That's right.
Generations, hundreds and thousands of years later, we're praying. I know that, sweetheart, God gave us promises for our children.
Yes, He did.
And those. Tell us a little bit about what happened with that, because I think it'd be interesting for the folks to hear